I stopped having a period for 8 years. I started to think all of my friends complaining about PMS for their period was bullshit. I was like, oh, my friends, my like female friends are such wimps. They can't they're blaming everything on their period, and everybody's always like, I'm on my period. And I was just like, whatever, they're just like using it as an excuse. And then my period came back and it was like, I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me? I almost slapped a woman in line at Gelson's at the grocery store. Flying solo. Hey guys, welcome to Full Out Flying Solo. We're gonna keep this reading a full out comment of the week from one of my stand-up videos. We're gonna keep that going. So Molly has just handed me a comment, screenshotted really big on her computer. One time Molly did ask me, Molly's much younger than me, and one time she asked me, what size font can you read? And I was like, wait, I can read normal size font. How old do you think I am? Okay, well, she made this really big for me. Okay, here, this is how big she made it for me. Okay, it says, good God, this is a joke about my dad being married and divorced 3 times, but this is what they commented. Good God, my dad has been widowed for 2 years. I very much relate to this post. He's like Kanye. He can't be managed. Oh my gosh. That's Caravan DKC. It's so funny. Okay, my dad's been married and divorced 3 times. I totally relate to this. I feel like, so he did tell me the last time he got divorced, he told me word for word, it's sad because she was the love of my life there for a bit. And that joke is like, not a joke, but it is a joke. But like, I remember exactly where I was. Like, my dad has said some things to me on the phone where when you, like, everybody remembers where they were when 9/11 happened, or like when certain things happened. I remember exactly where I was standing and talking to my dad on the phone when he says like wild, outlandish things to me like this. And I was like, oh, okay, what? So yes, my dad has been married a lot of times and divorced a lot of times, and hopefully he never gets married again. His business manager has like pleaded with him not to ever get married again, but I just like never really know if he's just gonna like, I don't know, have a wild New Year's Eve and get married. Somebody once, oh man, I feel like people on TikTok are so funny, and the comments on TikTok, I was talking about my dad and some joke, and everybody started to be like, is her dad Ross Geller from Friends? And I was like, this is so funny. And then it started to go on like this. People get crazy in the comments in a good way sometimes in a bad way, but people are very witty in the comments. And I'm sorry your dad's like Kanye and he can't be managed. Because like, what are you supposed to do, What are you supposed to do? All right,
Here, brush the hair with your microphone.
I wanted to talk about like a full out thing that happened to me because of cheerleading. I'm gonna slowly close this. I feel like when I was in college, I was cheering all the time. I think I've talked about this on the podcast before, but I had like a really bad eating disorder because everybody in competitive cheerleading had an eating disorder, and eating disorders are so competitive that if you already take a bunch of competitive cheerleaders and then they have a competitive like eating disorder thing, I was winning at it. I felt like I was like the best at it, which it was getting me a lot of praise from my coaches. I was becoming like the star of my team because I was so tiny, and I like never was like, I was always a small person to begin with. So I just like I was addicted to diet pills and like, just treating my body like terribly. But it was also the early 2000s, not to like apologize for it, but I just feel like it was such a different time, like body-wise, and I feel like we're shifting into a new phase body-wise with Ozempic and stuff, but I feel like everybody for years was like body positivity, and now they're like, now we're all skinny again from Ozempic, and I'm like, did you ever really like your, like, were we all just pretending to like our bodies because that's what we were supposed to do during those times, and now that there's a drug out, everybody's like, I didn't anymore, which, I mean, if it makes you feel better, like, go for it, you know, whatever's gonna make you feel better for yourself, not for other people. That's what I always think. But anyways, my eating disorder was like really for other people, but I stopped. I got so small that I stopped having a period, and weirdly, like, everybody in my apartment, I had 4 girls in my apartment who were all cheerleaders, we all stopped having our period at the same time. It was so bizarre, and they all got theirs back after a few months, but mine, so I was probably 19 when it happened, 20, and I stopped having a period for 8 years. I didn't have a period, and I started to think that I was living like a man, kind of. Like, I started to think all of my friends complaining about PMS for their period was bullshit. I was like, oh, my friends, my like female friends are such wimps. They can't, like, they're blaming everything on their period, and everybody's always like, I'm on my period, and I was just like, whatever, this is so, they're just like using it as an excuse. Like, every guy thought that every man has, probably, I was having, and I did like recover from my eating disorder when I got to LA, which is such a weird thing to say that this is where I recovered from it, but I committed to being like, I'm not going to have this anymore when I moved out here, and I was like, I can't live my life like this. And because I was like not eating I was eating like frozen broccoli and Monster energy drinks, and then I was like drinking vodka and Diet Coke at night, and like just trying to like pass out so that I didn't have to eat anything. That's like what I was, and then I'd wake up for practice the next morning at 5 a.m. It was crazy and not sustainable. And I also just like, I knew I had a problem, so I got here and I like found myself an eating disorder clinic, and it was a group thing that I was going to 5 days a week, and this is a blend of my eating disorder and losing my period episode, I guess. But I was going to this clinic, and it was a group, and since eating disorders are so competitive, I quickly realized like I got to get out of this group, because I felt like it was just a bunch of women almost like pitching ideas of how to be better at having an eating disorder by being in group therapy for having an eating disorder. So I was like, this is not good for me. And I got out, and I had just a regular therapist on my own. And I went like a bunch of times a week. And then I don't know, something clicked inside of me where I just realized, I was like, oh, my body is like what houses, like, I don't know. I just felt like our bodies are like what holds like our being inside of it. It's like and I was treating mine like myself so poorly, and it all like made sense to me that of like how bad I was taking care of myself. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna like start eating like a normal person, and wherever my body falls, like that's who I'm meant to be. And that's like, and this is always the size I've been, small from the day I was born. I was like this. So I eat like a normal person, and I'm, you know, but I was like really like, whatever I'm meant to be is what I'm gonna be, but I am gonna like treat my body with respect and take care of myself. And I had to like mourn how I had treated myself in the past, you know. Anyways, I flash forward, I like recovered from my eating disorder, and I felt like it'd been years, but I still didn't have my period back. And I would go to the doctor, and they said, apparently there's some pituitary gland in your brain that shuts off, and it happens to a lot of gymnasts and a lot of cheerleaders and a lot of people with eating disorders in your early 20s or like late, I think, you know, like whenever it happened to me, it happens, and it basically goes to sleep. The doctor was like, this pituitary gland in your brain goes to sleep, and like you stop having a period, and it's gonna wake up again in your late 20s, like 27, 28. And I was like, okay. But he's like, you need to get your bone density checked every year, because if you're not having a period, like something can cause your bones to deteriorate. So I would go and get my bone density done yearly. But they said that they were always like, but you know, you could get pregnant at any point because you never know when it's going to come back. So like, it's not like you just like can do whatever you want to do, you know? And I was like really upset that I wasn't having a period, because it felt like a reminder of the fact that I had like done that to my body. So it was starting to make me like emotionally upset. I was like, oh, this feels like the one thing that I haven't like gotten to come back, you know? And I did this, I found this thing. I was like really hippy dippy for a while because I like was new to LA too. But I was like, I feel like the first like 5 to 7 years of my LA life, I was like, throw me anything spiritual and it is like right up my alley. I still like that stuff, but like who's got the time anymore, right? And so I found this woman. I don't even know how I found her, but she did Mayan abdominal massage. Oh, because somebody I was so hippy dippy now that I think of it. I was doing a play, and it was a play with this woman who did dream analysis. And the way we did the play was that we all workshopped this play together. There were like 6 women, and we collectively brought in our dreams every night. Like we wrote them down and we like created a play based on all of our dreams that we were having. And she was like, we'll all kind of start to dream something collectively. I don't know. She was also analyzing my dreams for me, and she taught me a lot of cool stuff. Like if you are dreaming and in your dream, if you're in your dream and it's nighttime, if it's dark, it's something that's in your unconscious that you're not aware of yet. And if you're in your dream and it's daytime, it's something that you're like conscious of, but you're like working through it. And I always thought that was really cool. Who knows if any of that is true, but so she told me that she was going through menopause or something, and she had this woman who did Mayan abdominal massage, and it just like stopped her menopause. I don't know if that's possible. The fact that I don't know anything about menopause, and I'm like closer to menopause than I am to the day I started my period, is what's wrong with women's healthcare. I feel like I'm like none of this. I'm like, oh, what is that? So anyways, she told me about this woman. She did this massage. It's like Mayan abdominal massage, and she basically really just like massages my abdomen here. And then she taught me how to do it myself. And I saw her 3 times, and my period came back. And I was like, this is crazy. I had a period for 2 months, and I hadn't had one for like 4 years at that point. So, but unfortunately I was new out here and I couldn't afford to have a private masseuse come to my house like all the time. So I stopped doing it, but it did feel good to be like, okay, there's something that like so then my period stopped happening after that. But the doctors were like, we can give you something to like make you have a period, but it'll be a fake period. And I was like, no, I wanted to like come back on its own. And then I met Marco when I was like 27, my husband. And I think 3 months after I met him, my period came back. And this poor man thought he was meeting a chill, I don't PMS, nothing gets to me woman. I like hooked him in like that. And then my period came back, and it was like I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me? I almost slapped a woman in line at Gelson's at the grocery store. I almost slapped somebody. I was like having the urge to slap people. One time I was at a commercial casting office called Cast. Have I talked about this? No, right?
Maybe.
Cast?
We talked about Cast.
Okay, well, I was there, and I almost slapped somebody I was there with my sister because my mom was like, can you take your little sister to an audition? It was 105 degrees out. We're sitting in CAZT, C-A-Z-T, was this audition space that felt like even when you were doing well and like you were booking a lot of jobs, if you had to go to CAZT, you felt like your career had ended. We all had to go there, but for some reason there was something so depressing about that place where it was like shameful to even say that you had to go to CAZT. So it was called CAST, but they spelt it CAZT. So I don't know why. I had to go there for my sister. It wasn't even for my own audition. So like I was there as like a guardian to my younger sister who's much younger than me. And I'm sitting in the waiting room and this woman who's playing my sister's mom in the commercial, and they're like waiting in the lobby together to go in. Like first they come out and announce, the casting people come out and announce to the waiting room, it's too crowded in here, so if you're not here to audition, you have to go wait outside. And I was like, I already feel like a fourth class citizen from being here, like on the outside, and now I'm getting kicked out. And I was like PMS raging in my body. And my sister's fake TV mom looked at her and goes, your friend doesn't seem very happy. And I like got up to be like, I'm gonna slap this bitch across the face. And then I was like, okay, I need to go outside. So anyways, it's been a real journey for me because I feel horrible that I thought any of my friends were ever making up their PMS symptoms, because I like feel like I'm on the fine line of like, I go back and forth like, do I have PMDD or do I just have really bad PMS? And I ended up having to take like 10 milligrams of Prozac before my period started for years, because the 10 days before, because it was like, so bad, like so bad. It feels horrible to feel that level of rage in your body where like and then I feel like my period will start and it's like a balloon got popped, like a pin got popped, and I'm just like, I love my life, I love everybody, everybody's amazing, but before I'm just like pent up rage. So anyways, I'm still dealing with it, and I think I have it like a bit more under control, but I have to do a lot of like tracking my period and all this stuff, because I'll like destroy my entire life a few days before, because I just get stuck in this like, oh, I have so much like anger and rage. And it was really nice when I didn't have a period. Now looking back, I'm like, that was the heyday, to be like 20 to 27, 28 with no period. It's like, are you kidding me? When it did come back, I went to my gynecologist because I was like, I don't even know why I went. I think I went for a checkup. It hadn't even started yet. I felt like my boobs were growing, and I was like, my boobs are really sensitive. And I was like, what is happening? I feel like off. And I went, and he's like, you could be pregnant, or you could be about to start your period. And I was like, what? It's like, isn't like every woman either pregnant or about to start their period? Like, what are you talking about? And I had just met Marco, and I was like in this like rage state too. We'd been together for 3 or 4 months, and I remember my little sister was with me staying at my house for a night when this was happening, and I was like, I think I'm either pregnant or I'm gonna start my period. And Marco's parents were in town, and I remember he told his mom, and I was like, I can't believe you told your mom. And I was like, oh, now looking back, I'm like, I think that's such a European thing. I don't know, like my mom, like I would never have told my mom that at that point. But anyways, my period started like 2 days later, and he's had to be there through all the insane fights. And then Marco became a therapist, and when he was in school to get his master's, I kept being like, I'm not going to your graduation unless your professor has you guys read at least one book on female hormones, because I don't feel like anybody understands them and what happens to us. Like, I get so clumsy. I drop things. I know my period's gonna start because I can't hold my keys in my hand. Like I fumble everything. Like I drop everything. Like today I like was like, why am I all of a sudden crossed up in wires and stuff? And then I'm like, oh, my period's gonna start. Like something happens to my brain where I just like become a different person for a few days and then I'm back. So anyways, I feel like it's happened to other people. I've had other friends be like, oh, my daughter, this happened to my daughter and she's a gymnast and stuff. And it's not even just people with eating disorders. There's something about being a gymnast and flipping around that can make your period stop like that. So anyways, yeah, full outrage. Okay, thanks so much for, if you need help with this, I don't know much, but I know some stuff, so hit me up, okay? Okay, bye guys.